Hello, hello, lovely people. Welcome into That Sounds Gay. My name is Jer, and I will be your podcast host for a short period of time. This week, I am going to be joined by M as well as Grin as we discuss RuPaul's Drag Race Season 4. And I'm so excited, one, because I really love this season, and there's a lot of really fun things to talk about. But as always, we get to be back with Grin and M, and I love that. This is the end of Pride Month, and it's weird that it's gone by so quick. I feel like the months fly by, and I say this all the time because it really is true, but the fact that it's over already is so upsetting. I wanted it to last even longer. But I want to encourage all of you who are listening that our pride for who we are, our sexualities, our gender identity, the things that we are proud of in that realm, that celebration does not end just because a month is no longer rainbow coated, right? It still continues on because we get to be proud every day of the year. And so hold on to that and keep that in the back of your mind. As for this episode, I want to talk about something that is pertinent, not because necessarily we touched on anything, but the winner of season 4 is a very problematic person and has been accused of quite a few bad things that someone currently in social media is also being accused of. And if anybody is keeping up with all the Colleen stuff, you are probably aware. If you're not and you're sensitive towards grooming conversations, maybe don't look it up. But I just wanted to specifically bring up Sharon because this is someone who was such a inspiration to many people at the time of her being on television and of her story and highlighting this subsect of queer culture, the sort of like freak culture, the underground subversive side of drag and queer culture that didn't really have much of a platform until that point. And there were a lot of people who really felt themselves very represented in the same way that many people felt represented in some weird way by Colleen/Miranda Sings, even if they didn't realize it. Or these celebrities had a big impact on who they were growing up and who they developed into, how they perceived themselves, things of that nature. And with something like this happening and coming out with apologies or acceptance of whatever happened, the mistrust that comes from that, the breaking of the confidence in that person, who they were to you, is such a devastating thing sometimes because there are these people that are big public figures, right, that we really look towards. They mean a lot to us, and they're very important for a period of time. And something happens, and we have to reevaluate all of that. We have to re-justify our feelings and our thoughts and look over all of that and find what we can pull out of it. And in a very real and same way, it happened with the Harry Potter game or the movies, with J.K. Rowling coming out as a complete transphobe and anti-queer people in many different ways. And that being a very solid narrative where a lot of people had to sort of realign themselves with someone who created stories that helped them so much growing up, helped them through difficult or dark times that may or may not have saved their lives. And now they have to decide what they want to do with all of that and how they want to move forward, how much stock they want to put in this person going forward. And these are very tough personal decisions that you have to make. And there's not a right or wrong answer, I think, with how you choose to move forward, as long as whatever you're doing is with the intention that you are going to use whatever platform you have for the best positive route for everybody that was affected by that celebrity explosion, the intersectionality of where frustration meets importance. Someone who really made a big impact in on you and for you, but who they are as a person is just so violently opposed to that. And that is very much true for Sharon Needles in particular, is that she really gave a lot of spotlight to a community that hadn't really seen much representation. And a lot of people go back and watch that season and think really positively of her and don't really know what to do with that afterwards. So I just want to encourage all of you to tackle that as you need to with these people that you encounter, these big celebrity public figures that might make a big impact on you, and come to find out there is something very wrong about them and who they are as people, and process that as you need to. But I just wanted to sort of touch on that before we get into the episode, is that we sort of we tried to talk away from Sharon, but the times that we did try to make sure that we were praising the activity on the show and not the artist responsible, because those are very different things and those are very different concepts. So enjoy the episode. Happy Pride. I hope that it was a beautiful month for you. Continue spreading light as you go forward, and remember to be proud of yourself no matter where you are in your journey, because Pride doesn't just end because June is over.
Same here.
It's like my favorite. Grin's like, yeah, me too. Love that I'm stuck with. Love that I'm
here by
trapped
court
here.
order.
This is public service.
This is my community service for my crimes.
For the
My
probation.
crimes against the drag community. I'm
Not
so
the
sorry.
probation.
I'm so sorry. I promise I will use foundation correctly from now on.
They'll learn how to blend. It's okay.
Oh my god. It's because you use too much concealer and not enough highlighter. Just
I don't
crimes.
use any highlighter.
I unrelated to this season, speaking of highlighter, I love Pheromone and all of her highlighter. Like, she comes out on stage and her whole face is just shining to the whole world.
When I first discovered highlighter, that's what I looked like. And I think
God.
it was like the same year of Pheromone being on Drag Race.
Yes.
So if some drag queens can use Sharpie for their brows, can I just use a highlighter for the highlighting?
The Sharpie highlighters, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
everyone used.
Just like have yellow streaks.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Green if you need to cover up some of the rouge on your face.
I actually have an Anastasia Beverly Hills like rainbow highlighter palette, and I would do a full-on rainbow highlighter. Like, I would use every single color and just like meticulously place them in rainbow order and then just be glowing.
Yes. There was one year where everybody was doing highlighter colors. I remember specifically Morphe did like a full highlighter line, and it was the classic pink, green, blue, yellow colors. They had lips, they had eyes, they had they had the actual highlighter part. Like, everybody was doing that for a little short period of time. I still have Morphe products from 2016 that I still use. Don't talk to me about it.
Ma'am, they expire.
No. My eyes have not swelled up yet.
You should be disinfecting them at least. That's all.
I mean, yeah.
Actually, that is a thing you can do. If it is a pressed powder, you can take off a little bit of a layer for it, and it's technically better than nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of it's
think
pressed
you can
powder.
I think you can do like a spritz of rubbing alcohol as well, or
Yeah.
isopropyl, whatever one it is. Don't quote me on that. I'd have to verify.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure
Disclaimer, I am not a doctor.
Exactly.
I am not a doctor of cosmology-ist makeup thing.
I've played a doctor on television.
Oh my god. Okay,
Ooh, woo.
Ooh, woo. I forget who
I
said
was
that.
Dr. Ooh Woo.
I played the love doctor.
Hello, this is Dr. Ooh Woo on 210.
I love it. I love it. So we're here to talk about season 4 of Drag Race. Let's segue into this. Let's speed course into the left. We're here to talk about season 4, and I want to say this is the coolest. I don't know if y'all have watched it. This is the coolest promo of all of them. The black and gold in space theme, where Rue's like creating the queens, and I think it like shows them as super monsters or something at the beginning, and they all slide out in these really like geometric black and gold outfits. They look so freaking good.
I had not seen this, but now I feel as if I'm missing something from my life.
Oh, if you are not watching the promos before, you're only getting half the story.
I worry that I'm gonna get spoilers if I Google anything.
Fair.
Like, or go on YouTube and search anything.
Fair.
So I am planning on watching like all of the little snippets after I finish everything.
That's so
but
valid.
I've still spoiled a lot for myself just because I have to Google some stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, very much that. Like I do a little bit of review by going to YouTube and be like highlights for season 4, and it's usually like, oh yes, this season this happened this, but you'll remember in season 8 this happened. It's like, why are you doing this? What if I hadn't seen it? I don't care if it was 10 years ago.
Some of us are drag babies, okay?
Right?
Wag babies. Ooh, woo.
Ooh, woo. Ooh, woo. They're like, yeah, it doesn't matter that you didn't see this. Did you know that Chad Michaels won All Stars while you're trying to watch season 4? And you're like, no, I don't want to know that right now. I only say that because y'all
Spoiler
already
alert.
know.
But yeah, spoilers for people who hadn't seen All Stars.
M got
You're welcome.
spoiled on the All Star 6 winner, just looking up the queens from season 2.
I did. I spoiled that. I had
No.
spoiled the season 2 winner, the episode before the finale. And I spoiled season 8 winner because I was like, oh, when is Bob the drag queen on Drag Race? Oh, well, that answered my question.
Speaking of spoilers, before I go into the queens that are on this season, one queen on this season got their elimination spoiled for them before they went home. Do you want to guess who that queen was? Unless either one of you know. Just take a shot in the dark. It could be anybody.
My guess is Willem.
I mean, Willem knew what was going to happen.
I mean, yeah.
No, it was Jiggly Caliente. Jiggly got a checkout bill sent to her room the day before she got eliminated.
I'm sorry, excuse me, pardon me, what? Who?
I actually have chills. What the heck?
They already knew that they were going to send her home, and they sent the checkout bill to Jiggly. Like, thanks for staying here. Make sure your room is ready. Like, thanks for being here. And she knew that she was gonna go home.
So what I'm hearing is, if you lose Drag Race, you get the hotel bill.
Well, no, I think it was an accident. Well, maybe they do. Who knows? I think it's all paid for them. But she knew ahead of time. Like, she found out accidentally. And Willem already knew, which let me say who all the queens are really quick. So in order of who comes in the workroom, we have Willem, formerly Willem Belli, but goes by Willem only. LaShawn Beyond, Jiggly Caliente, you may call her Jiggly, Fifi O'Hara, who I will continue to refer to as Jeremy through the rest of the episode. Jeremy still does drag, but does more cosplay than drag, and kind of credits a lot of his dislike of drag because of the Drag Race fandom. Totally understood. If you saw All Stars 2, you already know there's a lot of shenanigans. Madame LaQueer, Milan, Elisa Summers, a queen for all seasons, just not this one. Dita Ritz, The Princess, Kenya Michaels, Chad Michaels, no relation, Sharon Needles, and Latrice motherfucking Royale. These are the queens of season 4. And since we already talked about Jiggly knowing her elimination, I'll tell y'all the tea about Willem. In case you didn't already know, Willem had already booked a show, like an off-Broadway show, and was supposed to go at a certain time, and she already knew she was going to go to it. All the queens were using their phones. They all had them. the rules weren't as tight. They were all talking to people outside of the hotel. They were going out all the time. And Willem knew that she needed to get back. I think it was New York that she had to get back to. So she basically went to the producers and was like, so yeah, I'm using my phone, so you have to let me go now. And everybody was upset. Specifically, Jeremy was upset because he didn't want to get in trouble with production because Willem was basically like trying to do anything she could to get off the show so she could get back to New York to do her show.
I had heard nothing of this. I had heard a lot of rumors, and which none of them necessarily seem true.
Yeah.
Because they seem very far-fetched, but that's just poor scheduling.
Yeah. And it makes sense in hindsight. Like, I didn't know any of that either, but it makes sense. Especially because, like, the only thing that I knew about her elimination was what was told in the reunion episode.
Right, which was totally manufactured.
Right. And now I'm like, oh, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah,
So then,
oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to ask, so where does all this stuff with Willem saying that she left because of the workplace conditions and not being fed enough?
Well, I mean, there was a lot going on. Willem's left little breadcrumbs about the show all over the place. She's talked about it in her book. She's talked about it on her podcast with Alaska. She's talked about it in little like clubs and stuff. She's never given the full entire timeline in one bit that I've heard at least. And she's just kind of like danced around it. But the working conditions were really bad. And Willem, being an actor, was the only one that really knew about these types of things because none of them had any of that experience before. So her coming in and having a lot of TV background experience, being like, this is not fair. She said that one of the producers called Latrice La What's or something, La What's her name, because she couldn't remember her name. And Willem was like, you have all of our names on a Rolodex that you keep on your neck all the time. You can learn her name. And Willem was calling people out for being not paid right, not getting breaks right. There's a lot of shenanigans.
I am so pleased by that push for better conditions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agree.
So,
I was going to say, I had heard the not being fed enough thing from another queen in a later season. I don't quite remember who it was, but she had said like she had gone 2 days without eating, both because of like time constraints, but also just like there was no time to sit down and actually just eat and nothing was available.
Right. I know Dita's talked a little bit about it. It's been kind of widely known that season 4 was the one that kind of changed so much about the format of this show. But yeah, it was a lot of the queens have talked about the working conditions. Willem being the most vocal because she doesn't really have a lot of stakes to go back. She got shafted for All Stars, and I don't think she really cares too much about WoW or Logo. But yeah, essentially, Willem already knew what she was being cast for. Like, she knew that she was going in to make TV, that the reason they picked her was for that. So she didn't think she was going to go all the way to the end. And so she booked this other gig. And I think she said in hindsight, she probably wouldn't have done it because the off-Broadway show flopped, one. But also she did really good on the show.
Yeah, hindsight, she did really, really well. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate the Broadway show flopped. I had heard, I believe this was on the podcast with Alaska, that they were told by producers not to look RuPaul in the eye. I feel as if there's some miscommunication here because this is from several queens who said if you're on the runway stage, you can't really see the judges. There's this bright light right in front of you. But I also think because RuPaul does have a lot of anxiety, she doesn't seem to look people in the eye very often. And I think producers took that as like, don't look her in the eye. And then that's also taken as like, don't look her in the eye.
Yeah, make sure to look at your camera.
Yeah.
Always stare directly in the camera.
Just make deadpan eye contact with it like you're in the office.
Just make very uncomfortable eye contact with Santino at all times.
Imagine like living your life like you're in the office. Like you just like look over and make a face to the camera that's not even there. I would lose
Don't
my
you do
mind
that?
if I saw someone do that.
I mean, I do that.
Oh my god.
That's me all the time.
Yeah, but that's because you're on Twitch all the
I
time.
mean, you're right. You right. So that's some of the big tea that happened. Also, the finale totally changed. How do we feel about this finale in comparison to the everyone gets to find out on stage and then the tears of the loser?
The tears of the loser. No, not that. I loved it personally because it went from being like, oh, yay, you win, to let's have a celebration.
Yeah.
Let's party.
Yeah, I'm kind of down for it.
It's fun.
I like being able to celebrate like Grin was saying, and also it just there's a little bit of suspense to it. Like you have more of like, oh my gosh, like you have more time to like chat with friends and be like, oh, who do you think is gonna win? Who do you think is gonna win? You know, type of thing.
Were either one of you surprised that Sharon won?
I was and I wasn't. I was surprised that she won because I didn't think that like an out of the box character like her would win, especially in an early season. But I wasn't surprised because she slayed every single challenge.
She did so good.
I flat out owe Sharon Needles an apology. When she walked into the workroom, immediately I was just like, yep, top 3, top 2, not the winner. Like, I could very, very clearly see the talent, the effort, all of that, and I completely discounted all that, be like, no, not gonna win the top.
That's super
And I said
valid.
that like every week. Part of it was because I didn't think that she had the vibe that RuPaul was looking for.
Right.
But I think it's also, still at this point, I was very unfamiliar with drag in general, and I didn't appreciate it as much.
That's super valid. And going back, I don't think you need to owe Sharon an apology.
I mean, I owe past Sharon an apology.
Yeah, Sharon for me is like James. I can appreciate what you did on the show, Tyra. I can appreciate what you did on the show, but as a person, mama.
Yeah, I apologize to Sharon Needles on the show. That ends at the finale. Everything after that, it's like, what are you doing?
Right.
Yeah, it was some scary stuff.
Yeah, fully. We don't need to get like all into it, but it's pretty wild. Now, in my opinion, I feel like this is one of the first seasons that feels slightly production heavy. I feel like you really see it in All Stars 1. Do y'all agree with that? Because I feel like that first challenge of being an apocalypse challenge with Elvira there, who was that made for? That was clearly made for Sharon.
I think so. I would agree. And it wasn't this also the first season where they have $100,000 as the grand prize?
It was.
That last season?
Yeah, this is the first one,
Yeah.
so the prize money went up.
Yeah, so they have a lot more money to spend, clearly, because they're upping their prize money. They are putting more money into the show and getting a lot more in return.
Right, absolutely.
I don't think they started the season 4 thinking like, oh, Sharon Needles, obviously our winner. I think it was very production heavy. It was a little bit orchestrated, but I think it was because there were several favorites, not just one favorite.
Right. I think they clearly favored Sharon, Chad, Willem, Latrice. I think that the 4 of them could have really done anything. And I think after the Dita lip sync, this will be, which we'll get into, I really feel like that's when Rue became very endeared to Dita. Dita could have literally pooped on the stage every single week. And I mean, she wasn't wearing the best runways, but she got away with it week after week because Rue loved Dita Ritz. Rightfully so. She's incredible. Dita's amazing.
Like, I agree, very amazing, but it also was a reminder of, this is RuPaul's show. If you want to impress anyone, it's RuPaul. The judges are there as advisors.
They're ornamental.
Right.
They're ornamental. Like, as RuPaul has said several times, well, none of you have been any help.
Right. So on that note, who was y'all's favorite queen this season? Because it's impossible for me to pick one. I love all of them. I think it's really between Willem and Dita for me. The two of them are my probably top two. I love them.
Mine was hands down Latrice Royale.
Yes.
My girl. She's everything to me. Like,
She's
she
great.
can do no wrong in my eyes, honestly.
I loved Latrice's energy the second she walked into the workroom, and then learning more about her story, her journey, and
Yeah.
seeing all of her talents, like, very endeared very quickly. I was also very endeared with Jiggly.
I
I
love Jiggly.
didn't quite ever have enough appreciation for Willem. I think, again, it was just... I was very much like a superficial viewer still. And I think if I had to pick someone else, Milan, actually. Milan was just... had a lot of points there that I'll get into a bit later probably, but has a lot of points that really, like, struck a chord with me.
Yeah. Speaking of Milan, since you already brought her up, she was the first queen to have a catchphrase walking in the workroom, because up until this point, everyone was like, hi, how y'all doing? Oh my god, wow, it's crazy here. Where Milan actually had, like, the first catchphrase coming into the workroom, and I think set a standard going forward of go in, be bombastic, say a thing.
I absolutely love seeing queens, like, do something for the first time, and then every other queen that ever comes after them does their own version of it.
Yeah.
Like, where we have Shangela, who writes on the mirror with her lipstick, and then now that's just a staple in the show. And also the catchphrases. Like, it's kind of like full circle, because you have something to introduce yourself with, and then also something to say goodbye with.
Yeah, I have 2 points on that. First, I was so excited because I thought Shangela was returning for another season.
I know!
I was just living for that moment, and I get why they didn't actually want to bring her back, but I also really wanted her to. But also, that does play into the point that RuPaul's Drag Race has shaped drag to be very different than I think what it was before.
Yeah.
It has set standards, it has expanded horizons, and it's in some ways dictated what's okay and what's not okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And this season in particular was sort of defining the guidelines. Like, season 3 set up the blueprint, and then season 4 refined it so that it was perfected by season 5, in my opinion.
Very much that.
So now that we've talked about the queens, did y'all have a favorite runway? Because we're still kind of in the ambiguous, we're your best drag runway. But we don't really have any solid categories yet. A couple here and there, but nothing super crazy. Did y'all have any favorite runways?
Oh yeah, hands down, the Dress to Impress with Milan. I love Janelle Monáe so much, and to see Milan come out and really represent that and just be everything, and then to be told you look like a boy was
It was so frustrating.
heartbreaking. I was just like, you just took all that effort from a queen. You took so much of an image of basically a superstar at this point. Janelle Monáe had done so much to impact the entertainment industry, queer culture, and just said, like, boy.
Right. It was demeaning.
Yes, that's the word for it.
Yes, definitely. I don't know if I have a favorite runway. I really loved all of Sharon's looks. I loved all of Chad's looks, all of Latrice's, all of Willem's.
Sharon's bitch ball look was so good.
I just hate to say it, but she really killed it that season.
She does
really
drag
did.
well.
She does.
And
She's
she
so good.
she does good on the show. Some people are not good human beings, but they are really good at their craft, and it's so hard to look at their body of work and appreciate it without seeing the person that's behind it.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, isn't that what drag is to some extent? To
Yeah,
hide
fully.
the person behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're very right.
A lot of my old sisters, who are still my family, I think, a lot of my sisters are awful people. Just awful, terrible people.
I
So does
love
it run in the
that.
family?
Yes.
Oh my God.
That's why they adopted me, because I'm so terrible.
They just saw the potential that, yes, that looks evil.
That one is a problem.
So hateful.
This is a problem, sister.
It's
Come with
not
us.
even that it's hateful, it's that it's true. I hate it here. I'm gonna find new friends to bring on here.
I'm going to be taking over the podcast from now
There we
on,
go.
and you can go start your own one where you get to be as evil as you want.
Precisely. I'm just gonna run a rampage. I think for me, my favorite look was definitely it was Willem's indigo look, the overalls with that blonde hair, and it was all like bedazzled and everything. I really love the Pride Challenge. It's one of my favorites.
I'm trying to remember that one exactly.
I'm blanking on that one also.
Same.
The what did she call it? Not the Starship Willem. I can't remember what she called it.
One.
The boat one. Yeah. The rock.
Oh.
The frock the vote. No, or float your boat. Float your boat was what the challenge was. That's actually my favorite challenge of the entire franchise. Is that Pride Challenge?
Was that the one where Willem was in like a denim bikini?
It was like a bikini / overalls, because it had like the overall top, and like the bikini part was at the bottom.
I'm seeing it now. I do love that look.
I love that look, and I love that challenge. It's my favorite. It's the one. If there was ever going to be a legacy challenge, I would hope that it would be that one, because I think that Pride one, if everybody gets a bandana, which is so funny that they also got bandanas, and they didn't even talk about the fact that bandanas are used in kink cruising culture. They didn't even touch on it, and they had all the potential to do it.
I mean, they want to expand queer culture. They just want to keep it subtle.
Right. And I do appreciate that.
I actually didn't like this challenge at
What?
all. I thought it was very odd to basically give the queens like labor to carry around this boat. And like, I mean, Willem took the proper approach of like, put the boat down, step out of the boat, do the runway, then you can leave. Because it's kind of like distracting.
I mean,
I felt.
that's fair. I
think if they wanted to do something like that, they need to do something lightweight.
Yeah.
Oh yes, because I think in season 8, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but they kind of have one of the queens do a do-over of this challenge, and she mentions like it's incredibly heavy.
Oh, Naomi.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a very heavy, and Naomi is like
so tiny.
Tiny.
Yeah. No, I mean, that part, the laborious part of it, I get. Some tea on that one. Willem was saying, because she saw this big boat and she was like, I'm not carrying that boat. I'm tiny and frail, and I'm petite. I'm not doing that. She went into the Interior Illusions Lounge without asking and tore apart one of the items that was in there, like a rollaway thing, and literally like deconstructed one of the furniture pieces and attached it to her boat so that it had rollers.
That's beautiful.
And production was like, you can't do that. And she's like, stop me.
Why can't she? That's genius.
That would have been a lot better. Imagine like having, it doesn't matter if it's not like, it ruins the illusion. Imagine just having those boats on rollers and the queens could focus on doing like, a parade wave or something.
Yeah.
I think they just didn't want her to do it because they can't admit that she had a good idea.
I mean, it was probably just one of those like, oh, no, you can't do that. We said so.
Right.
No.
Exactly.
And she's like, stop me then.
Rue will eat us. Rue will eat us.
I love that challenge, but I do understand. Did y'all have a favorite one from the season?
I think my favorite one, I don't remember what it was called, but the one, the mommy and me type of thing where they all had to like dress up like they were pregnant.
Oh, the DILFs?
Yes. I think it was that one. But I loved that one.
Yeah, that one was an interesting challenge.
I think for me it was probably the election.
Oh, fuck the vote.
Fuck the vote. There we go. I think this set a standard for like encouraging drag to be political, because by default it is political, but this kind of encouraged like get involved.
Yeah. Because
And I
drag is
think it had a
inherently
lot of
political.
it is. And I think like we do see this in later seasons where it's literally they have signs that says register to vote. Like this was the
Right.
start of saying like if you want to have your rights, you have to fight for them.
Mm. Well, and also using Drag Race as a different platform, not just art.
Yes. I mean, art is also political.
True. True. It's setting a firm line, which I think is great. The funniest part about that challenge to me is when what's his name, Dan Savage, I think, and he's like, tell me about a time that you made peace with something. And Latrice is like, about 5 minutes ago, I looked to my left and I saw that Phoebe O'Hara was ugly, and I'm at peace with
Oh
that.
my
Oh, wasn't that because? Oh, please correct me if I'm wrong, because this could be insulting. But
She
I
made a
think
racist
this,
joke.
yeah, where it's like I would
Yeah.
hire the help. It's like,
Yeah, and she pointed to
Yes.
Latrice and Dita.
Yep.
oh, why? That was
I
so
know.
cringe.
So
I
the secondhand embarrassment.
I
yeah.
couldn't believe that she didn't go home that episode, even just for like saying that.
I
Like,
know.
that would just
Yeah.
leave such a bad taste in my mouth if I was the judge.
Right.
That show.
However, as Willem pointed out, like Latrice put up with a lot on that show, and we do see that throughout other seasons where it's like
Yeah.
light racism is okay, especially if it's funny.
Fat phobia.
I was
Yeah.
just gonna say,
Yeah.
fat phobia is rampant, especially in the earlier seasons.
Yeah. And I mean, even down to Santino saying that her dress looked like a couch.
Yeah.
Like, Santino, shut your no drag knowledge mouth.
Wasn't the challenge like something about like upholstery or like a carpet or something?
There was
Or was that a
the
different challenge that I'm thinking of?
there was the magazine challenge, and they were like sitting on couches, but no, I don't think that this season had any like anything to do with upholstery.
Oh, you know what I'm thinking of?
Mm.
It was that one season where one of the queens they had to use like a curtain
Oh yeah,
as
yeah,
a dress. That's what I was getting at.
Gone with the
confused with.
Window.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a fun one. So, with these challenges, we had some great lip syncs, fantastic lip syncs this season. What was y'all's favorite? What was the standout from this whole season?
My favorite was when Kenya Michaels came back and she was against Latrice.
Yes, I was gonna mention that one where it's
Uh,
like it was so heartfelt.
Yeah,
It was so beautiful. It really was. That was one that like brought tears to my eyes
Mm.
because
Same.
they both interpreted the song so beautifully.
yeah,
And like, you know, you can't take your eyes off of either one of them, but like I felt like Latrice like really felt it just in her soul just by standing still because like, you know, you have Kenya on the side who's like doing this beautiful dance and she's using the entire runway, and then you have Latrice who's just like so steadfast and standing there and really like feeling the moment.
yeah,
Yeah, she's basically representing that steadfast mom who's just wanted this in her life and is so happy and just it's really beautiful.
yeah.
Like I like Kenya Michaels, yes. But I really was just like, no, it has to be Latrice. Like this is just incredible.
It was also kind of camp too.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
I'm, like,
very, very.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Like, it's
Oh,
just so
same.
fun.
I need to go watch that again because that was definitely one of the best lip syncs probably of the series.
You think?
I
think so.
agree. I agree.
See, for me, it's always This Will Be. The princess kept up really well, but Dita being on that stage, knowing every single breath.
I would say that is my second favorite of this season, if not like second favorite of all time. Second or third, I would say.
It's one of my tops next to Shut Up and Drive.
That's a good one.
That was a good one too, yeah.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, like This Will Be was so good, but also Vogue, where Milan's starts on her head.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. I think this season was the season of lip sync battles.
Yo, yeah,
Like it is really so hard to choose a favorite because none of them missed. Like
Right.
none of them gave up. They all were trying so incredibly hard to stay, and you can see it in their lip sync performances with, the ones who had them. They were all so good.
Absolutely.
This is also the season when it became kind of weird to lose your wig.
I was just gonna say that.
Just because it does seem like, okay, in later seasons when the wig gets stuck in the ceiling, that's a whole different issue to talk
Oh my
about.
god.
But this was the start of like, oh, I lost my wig. Oh, I'm ripping off my wig. Like, yeah, it happened in previous seasons, but now it was kind of being like, this just happens, and it's going to happen a lot. And for some reason, it's no longer okay.
This is a precursor for like the rest of the series with the whole like ripping your wig off.
Isn't it so interesting that that's a thing, though? Because in season 1, when Chanel lost her wig, it was a sign of vulnerability. It was a sign of power. It was a sign of, let me show you the artist behind the art. And in this season, that was what Milan was doing. But everyone was like, no, you can't do that.
I think in the judges' eyes, especially like Michelle and Santino, they're probably thinking, I've seen this before.
Right.
It's not as vulnerable when you do it.
Right.
Thing, because you're not the first.
Right.
Because that's definitely how Michelle and Santino think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it went from being like, this is the first time we see drag on a national stage. Oh no, she's lost her wig. And now it's like, this is now a high risk competition.
Yeah.
You've lost your wig, you've lost the competition.
That's true. Because, I mean, as soon as Kenya took her wig off, I knew that it was done. But I think Kenya did it because that's how Milan beat her. I don't think she had any idea that taking her wig off was going to be a bad thing. I think in her head, she probably thought, oh, this will help me win. Milan won. She won 2 lip syncs taking her wig off. It'll be fine.
Yeah, there was definitely... This is the thing that we see season after season, but the double standards all around.
Yeah, fully. Lots of those. So, since we're talking about Kenya and that lip sync and we mentioned her, do y'all agree that she should have gone back, or do you think there's anyone else that deserved another shot before Kenya?
I probably would have brought back Dita. Or the princess. I know that might be like a little out there, but I thought the princess would have gotten a lot farther. I think she was a little bit like in her head.
Yeah.
And I really thought that she had what it took to be like at least top 5.
Yeah. No, I think the princess would have done great. She would have been fantastic to bring back.
I think for me, it probably would have been... Oh, it's such a tough one. Because there's quite a few of them where I would want to see more of them. I guess I would have to say also the princess, because that vulnerability did get to her. And there are 3 things that'll kill you in Drag Race. 1, a lip sync assassin. 2, not knowing how to sew. 3, yourself.
And yourself.
Yeah.
Like, so many queens get in their head and they're so unfair to themselves.
Right.
Like, do you know why you're in this competition? You are fierce.
Right.
Do not treat yourself this way. If you're not going to treat a drag sister this way, if you're not going to talk to your drag mother this way, don't talk to yourself that way.
Right. I think what's interesting about this season is that for my Drag Race conspiracy theory, it kind of set up the formula of how to win the show, or at least how to get to top 3 or top 4 by having a specific character arc throughout the show of the underdog, the front runner, and the villain. And then later on they add another category into that. But you see this echoed through each season where there's always someone who you think is going to win because they're just killing it. Chad Michaels. There's that underdog that could win, Sharon Needles. And then there's that villain, which was represented by the unfortunate edit that Jeremy got the whole time.
I think that's less with the queens being like set up themselves and more like editing, setting them up.
Right, absolutely. And I think that this season gave them that formula accidentally. You know, the queens being just themselves, it gave them a formula of what to do.
Yep, they definitely found a way to edit it to make a story.
Right.
I think that also goes back to what you were saying about how this season was the first one that was like super production heavy.
It feels like it.
that's where this falls into place. Is like they really amped up the production because it's all about the editing now. You have to have a character. It's
Right.
not necessarily a reality show. This is like a TV show.
Right. Rue is making TV, making television.
And you know who is no like you know who is the best television?
Who?
Willem.
Willem. Willem and Jeremy were such good TV.
I agree.
They were such good TV. But yeah, I think this season gave that formula, because we see it in every other season, and I think they kind of fine-tuned it for season 5, because you have the exact same storyline. You've got this front runner who clearly is going to stomp, and that's Alaska. You have the underdog Jinx, and you have the villain Roxy.
I think also this season I see a lot more like camaraderie between all of the queens. Even within Fifi and Sharon, like towards the end, they started to get along pretty decently,
Yeah.
even in the edits that they got. But you don't have like aside from them two, you don't really have these huge like enemies situations or like tense disagreements.
Heather's boogers.
Right. It's really just that, those few blow-ups between Fifi and Sharon. Because I
Right.
could
And
tell they
Willem.
were just... Yeah, I mean, but Willem was trying to stir the pot a lot. I think Fifi and Sharon were just getting under each other's skin.
They planned it.
Oh, did they?
They planned it, and they both have come out and said they knew what they were doing when they did all that. That they were kind of like talking in the hotel, like, how can we make TV? What if we just amp up that we don't like each other? And it turned into like they really didn't actually like each other, but they definitely played it up for TV, because they both could have gone their own separate ways and just ignored each other.
Yeah, I kind of like that though.
Yeah.
It makes me feel a little bit better knowing that like it's not like just this hatred fueled like enemy situation.
Yeah.
Like now they're making a joke.
Yeah, when it gets into, like, it's not RuPaul's best friend race, obviously, but when it gets into that, like, sentimental moment of supporting one another, I think that's the best moments, and I don't think they had yet realized that in this season.
Yeah.
And it definitely was a let's amp up the drama. But I think the character arc theory gets destroyed in a couple of seasons, especially one of the All-Stars where one queen is winning challenge after challenge after challenge.
Right.
And they can't really manipulate that.
You kind of see the All-Stars formula change a little bit with this like hero underdog villain type situation. You still see it to an extent where they're trying to manufacture that all season, but it certainly holds true with a lot, if not every single one of them, minus like one of them where they had to do some production changes. But since you brought up RuPaul's best friend race, that's funny that actually came from this season.
Really? I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, it was LaShawn. It was in the very first Untucked, or maybe it was the second one.
I think it was the first episode.
Yeah.
I could have sworn it was Dita who said that, but I have not seen that episode in probably since like December.
It was LaShawn and Jiggly were bickering with each other, and Jiggly was like, I'm gonna go home and like people should care, and LaShawn was getting on her about how Jiggly wasn't focused on the competition, and how she goes, you were just kiki. This is not RuPaul's best friend race.
It is so iconic. Oh my god.
And it's referenced every single season, and it was this season that brought that up.
I love that.
And then it finally gets concluded that you can't participate in RuPaul's best friend race because Michelle Visage already won that.
I think I actually just watched the episode that you are quoting.
Oh, fantastic.
I love that.
It's so good. I really love this season. They set up such a good formula for what the show is now, and it really knocked it out of the park from what we already had. But what this season did not do a great job was damage control after the fact. And it really showed the producers and RuPaul's intention of making TV, that they are out to make television and make characters, not necessarily to build up people's careers, because what followed Jeremy after the show was so disheartening and frustrating to the point now that Jeremy still gets death threats from people.
I am all on board with people, wanting to hate someone, but keep it to yourself. Like,
Right.
Exactly.
You don't have to like let them know. You don't have to be like, well, you're terrible. It's like, no, you can tell that to yourself all you want.
Staying in your lane is
And-
free.
Exactly. And when it gets to the point of death threats, it's like you've taken this hobby a little too far.
Right.
No, I'm gonna get threats.
No,
It's only
we
from
would
me,
never
though.
let that happen.
It's only all of my death threats come from Jermeith. It's
For
true.
7 days to die, I'm like hitting the hashtag die button, the # die button.
Yeah, very much that. I just wake up and there's like a horse head in my bed,
Right.
and there's a letter that says XOXO Jermeith. PS, die.
Truly.
Emoji, hurt.
Heart emoji, eggplant emoji, skull emoji.
All the emojis.
Sweat emoji.
But yeah, this season was so disheartening for that. Because after the fact, no one was protecting Jeremy. No one stood up. RuPaul didn't even stand up and say anything.
I mean, at that point, it was brought up that that RuPaul had like started blocking Jeremy
Yeah.
on different platforms.
I don't think Ru follows really any of the queens. Ru doesn't even know their names. Or what season they were
So
on.
hateful.
To be fair, there are a lot of queens.
No, there are. But I was actually just listening to Rue and Michelle's podcast episode with Katya, and like Rue didn't even know what episode Katya was on. And like Katya is one of her most like famous proteges to come out of Drag Race.
What season were you in? Okay, I'm gonna spoil something for the future. There's an all-winners season in season 7, and it's a fantastic season. Jinx is in it. At DragCon this year, and maybe you saw the video, they're all standing like getting ready to cut the rope to get into DragCon, and Ru is like talking to all the queens, right? And he looks over and is like, and I was just telling this one this morning, and hands the mic over and goes, "What's your name again?" And she goes,
no.
"Jinx," just like that. And everybody's
my
cackling because everybody knows that RuPaul doesn't freaking know their names. And Ru just finished the season with her.
Can we maybe just potentially theorize that RuPaul is just really bad with names?
Ru says all the time she's bad with names.
Yeah.
She knows who's important to her, and that's it.
I mean, isn't that how everyone wants to live their life?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I know who's important to me, and sure, I've worked with you for 7 years. I don't know your name, but you're fine. You leave me alone. You don't put stinky things in the microwave. We're good. Don't need to know your name. Greg
You've
from
gotta
accounting.
imagine- You've got to imagine she's meeting like hundreds of people a day,
So
if not
many.
in the thousands. Like
Yeah.
I could never even try to learn that many names and
Right.
remember them.
The funny thing, though, is that she remembers details, because in that particular moment, when she goes, "Jinx," RuPaul goes, oh, right, Seattle. That's how she punctuates it.
So basically, what I'm understanding is RuPaul remembers by association, not by necessarily like a label. Like
Yeah.
names.
Right, like she remembers Jinx from being Seattle. She remembers Trixie because she's rich. Yeah, priorities. Oh, I don't know if y'all saw it. There was a recent interview with Tammy Brown. I need y'all to know that this exists. She was doing an interview with Joseph Shepard, who's like a big like Drag Race interviewer. And they asked Tammy a question. They were like, "So who's your least favorite drag queen?" And Tammy goes, "Oh, I don't want to say anything bad about anybody because there's just enough of that in the world. You know, there's so much hatred out there." God bless RuPaul.
I saw.
Oh
I was
my
freaking losing it.
God.
I was losing it.
I just love Tammy Brown so much.
I am so glad that I like looked up videos of her outside of Drag Race because she is a character on Drag Race. That's not who she actually is. I mean, she is
She's
still kooky out
psychotic.
there.
Have I told you about
She's
the time that I
so-
found a dead body?
Oh my god, she's so funny.
live for Tammy Brown.
I'm so here for her.
She,
And I still stand by it. I do want to know what's going on inside that head.
I do too.
A lot of
It's
things.
the Looney
Probably.
Tunes music.
Just on loop.
Space Jam, the movie, where you have like real people and then like figments of your imagination, like cartoon bunnies running around. That's Tammy Brown's head.
She does the Venga bus in this one performance at
Yes.
Mickey's. And she just comes out and has like that little swishy squiggly arm thing. And she does that the whole time, making her little Tammy Brown faces. Just swishing around the stage, doing nothing.
I'm obsessed with her.
Me
I
too.
really am.
Me too. And when we get into All Stars next time, it bums me out so much that she didn't get to go longer, but I don't think she ever was going to.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
One thing I'm kind of noticing about this season is it kind of represents some of the worst parts of queer culture. You have the like unrelenting attack
Yeah.
portion, but then you also have the heavy guilt
Yeah.
portion, which we see in the makeover challenge with the DILFs. And there's that one who says like, "Oh, I killed Judy Garland. I'm the one who recommended the sleep medication to her."
Oh, that was in season 5.
Wasn't that in
Yes.
this season?
No, that was season 5. That was I forget, Dave.
I thought that was this season.
Dave?
Poor Dave.
Yeah, Dave.
Oh.
Dave, that was the veteran challenge.
Oh. Yeah. I remember that now.
Now I'm just sad all over again.
Yeah. This season's interesting though. Moving on to a kind of like wrap up place. Do we agree that Sharon deserved that win? Because in my opinion, she stomped all season. I loved Chad, but Sharon won that season fair and square.
I definitely said Sharon would be in the top 3, probably top 2. Seeing her win was a surprise, but also not, because she really did extraordinarily well.
For me, I couldn't tell if they were setting it up for Chad or Sharon to win the entire time. And I thought it could have gone either way when we got up to like the top 3. I don't think that Fifi was ever set up to win. I think she was set up to be like the person who everyone was supposed to hate, and that's why she was in the top 3. Not saying that she wasn't incredibly talented and doing amazing looks, but I really agreed with Sharon's win. I thought she killed it week after week after week. She never missed. I was really happy with her being the winner.
Yeah. I don't know if they even necessarily wanted Jeremy up there in top 3. I think that spot was reserved for Willem. Truly. Because I think that in that lip sync, I think Sharon would, or I think Jeremy would have gone home.
If Willem hadn't been,
DQ'd,
disqualified or, however it happened, I think she would have been in top 3 because she would have been that season's villain.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas, after Willem left, who else is there to take the fall? Well, it's Jeremy.
Right. Well, and like Frock the Vote, Willem would have killed that challenge. Willem would have been so good in that challenge. Yeah. It would have been so hard to choose between her and Sharon, who would have won that one.
I kind of wonder, though, if the villain archetype was like an after the fact still, like even to the top 3 point, like they still had no idea that Jeremy Fifi was the villain.
Right.
And then it just, when they got to the editing, they just started like cackling evilly behind the screen. Like, this is perfect, especially with all the post-production stuff.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if they were necessarily building it. I think it just kind of happened naturally on its own. And by the time they got to the end, they were like, this is a great format. We're sticking with this. But yeah, like, I don't know. I think she would have killed the Frock the Vote. I think the DILFs one, she would have been fine. I don't think she would have necessarily been in the top or the bottom. I think she just would have been skated right on through. And I feel like they probably would have brought Jeremy back for that one instead of Kenya. And I think that it's possible that Jeremy would have won, and maybe the bottom 2 would have been like, they were not featuring Chad. I think maybe Chad would have sent Latrice home in that point. And then for the bitch ball, I think that Willem probably could have done really well too, and I think that probably Chad would have sent home Fifi.
Oh, hands down.
So like I think Willem would have been top 3, potentially even winning the whole thing.
You
in my
think
opinion.
Willem would have won the whole
I
thing?
think she could have. I mean, even Rue said at the end that she thought that Willem
Yeah.
could have gone all the way. I think it
I
could have easily been Willem.
I think it would have been a really, really, really hard decision if that was our top 3.
Yeah,
I don't know how she would have made that
I don't have any
decision,
idea.
honestly.
No clue.
I think she just disassociates sometime, and whenever she comes to the first queen she sees, it's like, and you are the winner.
She probably like draws a name out of a hat when she can't decide.
Out of her wig.
That would-
Just like slides the paper out very
Yes.
slowly.
Out of the lace cap.
Yeah.
She has a coffee enema, a couple beta blockers, and then just has all the names spread out, and she just reaches out while she's looking for her aspirin, and whatever one she touches along the way, that's the winner. Were there any
Those are two
standout
names.
Were there any standout moments from this season that you think were really defining of the season? This one in particular.
Calling Milana boy was definitely just such an impactful moment, and not in the best of ways.
Right.
And then for a good moment, the lip sync between Kenya and Latrice was just like the deepest of
Yeah.
feels.
I was gonna say something about Latrice as well, was when, you know, she was talking to Rue and she's like, oh, well, you know, I've been through a lot in my life. And Rue's like, tell me about it. And then, you know, it's a really vulnerable moment for her.
Right.
And I think like the world kind of embraced her because as like a former convicted person,
hmm
you don't always get a lot of opportunities to have a second chance.
Yeah.
And she was given that and she took it and made the most of it. And I love her for that.
Yeah, same. I think the this is not RuPaul's best friend race. That's so iconic of this season. But again, just the heavy-handed production side of it, noticing all these little things, like you already touched on Latrice being formally convicted, is that they have a challenge where they all go to jail. That there is no way they didn't manufacture that.
No. And you know what I love is that she didn't play an inmate. She played the guard.
Yeah.
And she loved doing it.
Yeah.
I bet you
Yeah.
it was like therapeutic for her.
Oh,
in a
I'm
way.
sure.
I agree. And it ended up bringing in like one of the most well-known memes from the show.
Get those nuts away from
Nuts
my
away from my
face.
face.
I wasn't going to be the one to
Sure.
say because I'm sure my voice would have cracked.
You're so fine. But yeah, no, just all those moments and like even casting people that Willem's worked with to be guest judges, certain challenges like the frenemies one. I feel like they manufactured that midway through because I feel like that probably was a different challenge. And they were like, these two hate each other. This would be great TV. It feels very heavy handed. And I think that really shapes the season of this is not a drag competition anymore. This is a television show. Not that that's bad, but I think only a couple of the queens knew that. I think Willem was aware and Sharon and Jeremy were aware. And they were like, let's make the most of this. I think everybody else was kind of in the dark. And I don't think people really picked up on the fact that it was a TV show until seasons later. I think even now there are some girls that come in that still think, oh, I'm celebrating my drag. Like, no, that's not why Rue brought you here. Rue brought you here to be the messy new queen. Rue brought you here to be the seasoned ingenue, you know?
Definitely. I think, you know, the production side of it is still kind of under wraps like, in this season. Like, it's not very blatantly obvious, except when you look back at, you know, newer seasons, like more recent seasons, you can definitely see like this is kind
So
of where
bad.
it started. This is where the blueprint was made, kind of like what you were saying earlier. And it like you also said, like it becomes a TV show.
Yeah.
This is for entertainment purposes. This is not really a celebration of the art anymore. Like it is for TV and business, and we eat it up. Like I'm here for it, you know.
Right. Well,
But
one more piece of
support your
tea,
local drag
since we're
queens.
talking about that really quick, because we need to get wrapping up on this. But Alyssa was supposed to be on this season.
They postponed it because of they wanted
Coco.
to have her. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
She got to like the top 15 and they called her up and they were like, so Miss Alyssa, do you know a Coco Montrese? And she goes, who? I don't know her. They're like, we saw that you competed together, because Coco also applied, but they cut her. And they were like, oh, okay, we'll let you know about the season. They cut her. And the next season, Alyssa walks in, and who walks in? Coco Montrese. And in season 5, we'll get into it, but they changed a bunch of the lip sync songs last minute based off of who they knew who was going to go home. The fact that Jiggly got her checkout bill the day before she was eliminated. Just, I think that production this season more, you know, obviously before any other one, before it, they realized, oh, we're making TV. And so that's, I think this season really defined what the show is going to be going forward.
I love all of that. I wish Alyssa could have gotten a chance
Could
to
you imagine?
have a season on her own, but I think like that season kind of led to them making up, so I'm all here for it.
Yeah.
Isn't that another part of the TV though? Of like, we bring family together.
Yeah, they say that
You're
all the
going
time.
to forgive each other on live
Oh my
television,
God.
or I will find you.
Right, very that. Very that. Well, as always, thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for doing this with me. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Of course. And for everyone listening, thank you for hanging out with us while we chatted about the season. We'll see you next time for All Stars 1. I'm so excited to talk about All Stars.
I cannot wait. I am so pumped.
Me too.
Very same.
You want to get pumped?
Always.
All right, bye.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Please take care of
Take care.
yourselves and know you are doing a
Bye.
fantastic job and you are doing the best you can, and that is all you can do. Goodbye.